Welcome back to the fourth online episode of Live Sunday Peacetime, hosted by Peacepoint on alternating Sunday mornings by myself, Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from Dhammakaya International Meditation Center in Azusa, California. Today's session will be about an hour and a quarter long and will consist of a 20-minute talk, 25 minutes of meditation, 30 minutes conclusion, answers to your questions submitted in advance, and the usual news. Last time you saw me, we looked at liberation, course, and fine-tuning of the mind, basically how to integrate meditation and mindfulness into our daily lives. The topic for Dhamma talk today will be aim in life and the 5 hindrances. Again, this session I would like to encourage you to send in any questions you may have in advance to the DIMC family line group, or post them on the Peacepoint Meditation YouTube page, or send them to me personally so that I can have a shot at answering them next time around. So let's start by looking at purpose in life. Did you ever feel that life is passing you by at an alarming pace? All of us started off as a mere baby, grew up to go to elementary school and then to high school. Some of us went to college to get a degree, with the expectation that a nice degree would get us a nice job, and with a nice income so you could get a nice partner, and before long you could have your own family. But then when you find yourself getting older, and then the doctor starts visiting you more frequently, and then they bury you under the ground, and if you're lucky, perhaps there will still be some people who remember you well enough to come and put flowers on your grave. Without intending to be overly morbid, such a whistle-stop overview of life forces us to consider whether there should be more to life than this. If we're not careful, it is as if life is living us instead of us living our lives. The short space of our lives can pass by in the blink of an eye, without us achieving the things we really wanted to do. At the end of the day, we will regret not having done more with our life that really mattered to us. Each day of our lives is made up of 24 hours, but how much of that time do we spend asleep? 5 hours? 6 hours? For some people it is as much as 10 hours a day, but on average it's about 8 hours. How much of our time do we spend working or studying? For most people it is an 8-hour day, and that doesn't include any overtime you might have to do. So that's 16 hours of your 24-hour day gone already without even starting to do the things that matter to you. What do you spend the remaining 8 hours of your day doing? Walking up and down, cooking, eating, washing up, chatting, or watching box sets? Before you know it, you can find that the whole of your 24 hours is filled with things of no great value to you. It were only a single day, it wouldn't matter that much, but over the course of a lifetime, this may be all you manage to achieve in your life. If this is the case, where will you find the time to meditate? If you're lucky enough to live for 60 years, according to a recent survey, on average people will have spent 29 years connected to their online life. They will have spent 25 years asleep. They will have spent 17 years trying to lose weight. They will have spent 4.8 years with their friends and family, 2.5 years cooking, a whole year picking out outfits, 5 months moaning, and only 115 days of their entire life laughing. Thus you can see that our assumption that life is long is definitely disingenuous. We are reckless to think that life is long. You can see that we need to organize our time properly if we are to find time to develop the quality of our minds. You need to make time to meditate. You need to carve out space in your life for your own self-development. Otherwise, old age will creep up on you, leaving you with aches and pains, fatigue, shortness of breath, and no opportunity or energy to devote yourself to your self-development, even if you have the time for it when you are retired. What can you do if you would like to achieve more from life, but you never seem to have the time? One way is to add clarity to your priorities and aims in life. It helps to protect us from interruptions in our life which are urgent but not important, like a ringing phone, which can upset the whole pace of our lives. Such interruptions can leave us unable to organize our time as we would wish. Sometimes these interruptions are really unavoidable, but at other times we give them too much importance and put them too high on our list of priorities, so they end up robbing us of our time. One reason why we are unable to set the priorities we want is because we lack clear perspective of the things we really value. With meditation, we're dealing with a practice and a tradition which has lifelong consequences for us. Therefore, for the practice of meditation and for setting up complementary priorities in life, we cannot afford to overlook a clear perspective of our own lives. We call such an overview our aim in life. If, as meditators, we have a clear aim in life, as intelligent human beings, we will be able to use our wisdom to plan out our lives according to our priorities. If we have no priorities and no direction, more often than not, life will pass us by as if on autopilot. Having a clear aim in life will ideally include plans for our life on 3 different levels: the worldly level, heavenly level, and transcendental levels. Everybody comes into the world with nothing, but everyone has the same basic needs for survival, whether it be the food on their plates, the clothes on their backs, the roof over their head, or the medicine they need to keep them healthy in times of illness. If any one of these things are lacking from people's lives, they cannot survive. According to the law of threes, you can survive 3 minutes without breathable air, 3 hours in an extreme environment, 3 days without drinkable water, and 3 weeks without food. That is only natural that at the very least people should be aiming to be self-sufficient in their basic physical needs. If their aim in life is any lower than this, they cannot survive, or they become a burden on other people. Of course, some people are not satisfied with just surviving. They may want to be millionaires. They may want creature comfort, to realize the American dream and retire at 40. In fact, however much or little you want, whether it is just to fulfill your physical needs or to satisfy your physical wants, such an aim in life is still quite short-sighted. It is based on immediate rewards to eat, drink, and be merry. In their youth, such people seek experience. In their middle age, they may amass wealth. Towards the end of their lives, they try to find an heir for their wealth. Such aims in life are called worldly because they extend no further than this world and this existence. Those who entertain only such an aim in life should at least make sure that they earn their living in an honest way, by earning, saving, using their earnings in a responsible way, and entrusting honest people to look after shared wealth. Nonetheless, to go beyond the limitations of the worldly aim in life, fulfilling the physical needs of the body, to avoid a meaningless life, it is important to have an aim in life that runs deeper than that. While recognizing that we need to have a way to earn our living, we also have to accept that our salary is only a means to an end. While we all suffer from physical hunger, we also suffer to a greater or lesser extent from a hunger of the spirit or the mind as well. If the mind is left hungry, it will deprive your life of a sense of meaning, the upshot of which is that alongside your worldly pursuits, you also need to find time to reach toward a higher spiritual dimension. Achieving a sense of meaning in life is facilitated by having a heavenly level of aim in life. There are 5 ways you can build a heavenly dimension into a busy life. The first is having a part-time pursuit of your spiritual aims. You might set aside a certain time of your day to pursue the spiritual dimension of your life, perhaps at a particular time of the day, maybe in the morning or in the evening, to meditate uninterrupted by other activities. If you can't find a little time every day, instead you might try taking time out especially, otherwise known as a sabbatical, pursuit of the spiritual dimension of your life. You might set aside certain periods of your life to devote yourself entirely to the spiritual dimension. Some devote their youth to spiritual pursuits, but need to spend the rest of their life looking after their own family. Some devote their middle age to spiritual pursuits, while in their youth and their old age they work simply for their more immediate physical needs. Some take a year out after college. The more time in that period they can devote to their spiritual pursuits, the more they can learn. And like a university professor needs to take research sabbaticals from time to time, otherwise they will have nothing new to teach their students. The third way is to have a selective career path that will facilitate your spiritual values. You might adopt a particular career or job where you can make a real difference to the world or other people's lives. Usually such jobs don't pay as well as the ones that are part of the rat race. For example, you probably earn more as an accountant than as a nurse. But as an accountant, you may not feel as spiritually uplifted when you're tired at the end of a long day at work. Another potentially easy way to reclaim time for spiritual matters is to simplify your relational ties. In other words, to have a minimum of family ties or dependence. This doesn't mean abandoning your responsibilities to your parents, but however spiritually inclined your family may be, it will always compromise your ability to elevate the quality of the mind. If you have a small family or no children, or stay single, then you will have more freedom to pursue your spiritual development single-mindedly. Supposing you want to use your life to the full in the pursuit of the practice of generosity, and supposing you want to make regular donations to a good cause, you will always have to weigh up how much you are able to give without impacting other aspects of your life. It depends on the number of ties in your life what proportion of every $100 you can afford to give to charity. If you are single and live alone, at the most you'll be able to give $50 to charity. But once you're married, you'll only be able to give $5. If you have a child, you'll only be able to give a single dollar, and if you have 2 or 3 children, you will struggle to give anything. In the same way as making donations, the free time you have to pursue things that interest you will also decrease in proportion to the number of ties you have. A final way to integrate spirituality into your life, if none of the other time-consuming aspects suit you, is to have an uplifting attitude to material possessions. You might cultivate skillful spending of your earnings in order to uplift the mind. Whichever way you set up your life as a householder who seeks to elevate the quality of your mind, you will have to find ways to adapt to the values you believe in, especially concerning how you spend what you earn. If you spend a lot on possessions, i.e. the things you have, you will often compromise on the quality of your spirit, i.e. the things you are. There's a choice in life that is encapsulated in the title of a book by Erich Fromm, between to have or to be. It is perhaps best reflected in the trend amongst many millennials these days to want to spend their money on new experiences rather than weighing themselves down with new possessions. In the way we use our earnings, it is not so important how much or how rich, but how the money is spent. Supposing you get your first pay packet. If you had no interest in the quality of your mind, you would probably selfishly spend your first earnings on luxuries like aftershave or lipstick. However, wouldn't it be more uplifting to use your earnings to use the same amount of money to buy clothes or blankets as a present to show your gratitude to your parents? The expense in both cases may be the same, but the feeling is different. In the first case, the money does nothing to elevate the quality of the mind or the quality of society. In the second case, however, the use of money brings comfort and joy to those parents and strengthens the bonds of gratitude in society. No matter whether the wage packet is large or small, the important denominator for raising the quality of the mind is the amount left at the end of the month, and how much of this can be shared for the benefit of others or the benefit of society. Such aims in life are known as heavenly because they extend further than the mundane world and this existence. Those who entertain a strong spiritual aim in life will usually cultivate faith or confidence that doing good deeds is of some benefit. They must not exploit or take advantage of their fellow man. They should be generous, and they should try to become wiser as they go through life. Last of all, there are those whose awareness of the hunger in the mind is so great that when they need to deal with hunger at its root, so great is the intensity of their calling that they seek opportunities to devote themselves full-time to the pursuit of spirituality, not just to improve their sense of meaning in life, but to reach spiritual perfection. They hope to purify themselves so completely that the hunger in the mind may be completely extinguished. They have to have sufficient time to devote to spiritual study without having to compromise their time in order to earn a living. They will spend their time learning the spiritual way and teaching it to the best of their ability, so intensively that the life of the householder and the family no longer holds any attraction for them. Such a level of aim in life is known as a transcendental, because it's like the express lane that seeks to bring a person to the end of all further suffering and to help others to do the same. This is mostly the domain of monks and nuns, but it can also be sampled by spending time following 8 precepts or participating in a meditation retreat. Often we go through life without much thought of the direction. Some feel that they would rather go with the flow, going wherever life takes them. However, to live life like this risks never finding fulfillment in life. Often we assume life will be long and that we will always have the opportunity to change our path. The inconvenient truth, though, is that we generally have less time than we think. In the words of one young meditator from Thailand, even if you play a game of chess, you still need to have a plan in your mind of what you're going to do several moves in advance. And that is only a chess game. What about the reality of our lives when we cannot suddenly decide to have a do-over? What has happened in our life is gone for good. No one can afford to live their life by trial and error with no thought of where their life is heading. Did you ever give any thought to your own life and what you expect to achieve by the end of your life? Or if you don't want to think that far ahead, did you ever plan what you'd like to achieve by the time you reach the age of 25, 40, or 60? Some of the things in our lives will happen automatically, by themselves, without us making any special effort, and in such a case we will have a probable lifetime. It will be the sort of life which will happen to you by default if you don't attempt to call the shots. However, if you are a person who likes to take control of the precious moments that pass you by with every in-breath and out-breath, why not take a few moments to plan what sort of life you would like to choose to see for yourself? The sort of life you could look back on in your dotage with pride and contentment, not the sort of life that when you look back on it, you wish you could have your time all over again. This would be something you could refer to as your possible lifeline. In your possible lifeline, try to include something from each of the 3 levels, worldly, heavenly, and transcendental, at each stage of your life. From person to person, the emphasis may be more on the worldly level, heavenly level, or transcendental level, depending on your personal preferences. You may think that aim in life and meditation might be completely disconnected from one another, but as you reflect more wisely on your life, an ability that comes as a natural byproduct of getting to know yourself through meditation, you will find your aim in life takes on more clarity. So now we come to time for some meditation ourselves. If you would like to find a comfortable position for yourself now, as you listen to my instructions.
how we sit for meditation. Gentlemen should sit in the cross-legged position, while ladies, who are not accustomed to sitting in the cross-legged position, can sit with their feet to one side if they prefer. You should have your right hand on your left hand, with both hands palm upwards, resting gently in your lap. The index finger of your right hand should be touching gently against the thumb of your left hand, both hands resting gently in your lap. Make sure your body is in an upright position without slouching forward or leaning too far back, so that both your circulation and your breathing are relaxed and unimpeded. Because everything about the meditation ought to be relaxed. If you are too forced as to your posture, then you will not be comfortable. If you are slouching, then you will get aches and pains. So close your eyes very gently, with your eyelids very gently touching closed. Never squeeze your eyes closed, and make sure there's no pressure around your eyes. Just close your eyes in an ordinary way. For meditation, it is necessary to relax our mind, and in this respect, the Lord Buddha taught the words Jako Patinisako Vimutti Analayo, that we must let go of all things, not being attached to them. Not being attached to our physical body, whether we feel stiff or whether we feel uncomfortable, we should just ignore these things. We mustn't worry about them, because the body we are using for meditation is only like a tool for the mind, to be used in order to reach liberation. Liberation from defilements, in order to reach towards nirvana. Our body is only transient, and we have only temporary use of it. Thus, no matter what may happen, we will not be interested in our body. We must let go of attachment for our body and even for our life. Something we let go of in homage to the teachings of the Lord Buddha. So, no matter what happens, we will not be attached to or worried about our bodily condition. We're going to bring our mind to a standstill. It's our only aim in life, to train the mind to a point where it can be pure and clear, to attain the body of enlightenment inside, not only attaining it, but to become one and the same as it, to know who is our real, true self inside. That is, the body of enlightenment of the Arahant inside of us. And to reach this point in our meditation can be said to be our obligation as a human being, as the Lord Buddha used the words Katang Karaniyang, something which we have to do for as long as our body is still viable. Once our mind comes to a standstill, we will be able to liberate ourselves from the cycle of existence. So there is no use in being attached to our own body or the bodies of other people, especially those of our relatives or of our husband or wife, because all of these things end up bringing us suffering eventually. They bring us anxiety, absent-mindedness, worries and doubts. They bring all sorts of suffering to us simply because of the fact that we are worried about them. The fact that we are worried about them is because we don't realize our real, true aim in life, the real reason for having our human body in life. Once we don't know about our real aim in life, then it opens the way to hundreds of causes of suffering in our life. So we have to let go of our body. If we don't do it now, then we have to do it anyway at the time when we come to the end of our lives. So we should make our mind relaxed and allow our mind to come to a standstill. Today, as we meditate, we'll take the opportunity to explore the nature of the pathway to nirvana. But before we do that, For those who are newcomers to the meditation, we should familiarize ourselves with the 7 bases of the mind first. According to the original teachings of the Dhammakaya tradition, by the founder, the great abbot of Wat Phak Nam, otherwise known as Prat Mongkon Thep Muni, the originator of this meditation tradition. Because he always started by teaching the pathway of the mind, the pathway of all living beings, the pathway by which all beings are born and die, by which the mind enters and leaves the body at conception and death respectively. The first point on this path, the first base of the mind, is at the nostril. For ladies, the left nostril; for gentlemen, the right nostril. The second base of the mind is inside the nose, just next to the corner of the eye, for ladies on the left side, for gentlemen on the right side. The third base is at the center of the skull, on the same level as the eyes. This point, and all the subsequent points, are the same for ladies and for gentlemen. The fourth base is at the roof of the mouth. The fifth base is at the center of the throat, just above the Adam's apple. The sixth base of the mind is in the middle of the stomach, at the same level as the navel. Supposing you were to take 2 thin threads, the first running from your navel directly through your back on the horizontal axis, and the second running from the right side to the left side, also horizontal on the same level. The point where these 2 lines intersect, no larger than a pinpoint, is called the sixth base of the mind. This is where a sphere of Dhamma is to be found, which is clear and bright, transparent, and about the same size as the yolk of an egg, with its center at the point of intersection of the 2 threads. This sphere of Dhamma is very important, because without this sphere it would be impossible to take birth in human form. If this sphere is bright, your life will prosper, but if this sphere becomes dull or darkened, then it predicts that life will soon bring you problems. Every human being has this sphere at their center, and the existence of the sphere is proof that anyone who makes an effort in their meditation to the point that they can bring their mind to a standstill can succeed in meditation. This is because they don't need to create anything new in their meditation. All they need to do is to tune in their mind to see what is already there. 2 finger breadths above this intersection of the 2 threads. Supposing you were to take your index finger and your middle finger together and to place them on the intersection of the 2 threads, then exactly that distance, the distance of 2 finger breadths above the intersection of the 2 threads, is what we call the 7th base of the mind. It is the precise center of our body, and in fact it's this final point which we are interested in. It's the most important of all the bases, of all 7 which we've already mentioned. Because all the senses, whether it be eye, ear, nose, mouth, or sense of touch, are focused at this point. This point is the place from which we are born and from which the mind leaves the body when we die. When we are born, the spiritual component moves through all the 7 bases of the father. When the father and the mother come together for conception, the spiritual component of the baby to be born comes from the father to the mother, collecting up together with it the physical constituents, going down through the 7 bases of the mind, down to implant itself at the 7th base of the mind of the mother in the womb. When we pass away, it's the reverse process. The mind leaves the body starting from our own 7th base, straight through all the 7 bases, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and leaves our body by the 1st base, that is, via our nostril. It is also the location of our mind at the time of our falling asleep, and also at the time of our waking. When we come to the end of our human life, the mind leaves the body starting from our own seventh base, straight through all seven bases. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, leaving our human body to seek for rebirth somewhere else in the cycle of existence. It doesn't matter whether the next birth will be as an angel or as an animal. If the dying person is destined for a future rebirth, their spirit has to leave the body via the seven bases. However, if we don't want to be reborn anymore, the mind has to leave the body by a different path, which is directly through the center of the seventh base. It is an inward journey for the spirit rather than a journey to take it out of the body. If we are making the inward journey, it is different from making journeys in the outside world, where we have to use our feet to walk or we have to move around. In the outside world, we have to think, we have to take action. However, if we want to make the inward journey, we have to start by stopping the mind. The most important point is this one, which is 2 finger breadths above the level of the navel in the center of our body. It's here that we have to bring our mind to a standstill, and it's this place which we have to become familiar with. But in practice, you can just remember it as the point which is roughly in the middle of your stomach. The description so far is only just to become familiar with the rough position of the center of the body, so that you know where to place your attention when you're meditating. We have to start by giving ourselves the feeling that our mind has come to a standstill at the center of the body. We can do this by giving ourselves the feeling that our mind is visualizing a sphere or a crystal Buddha image at the center of our body. In fact, it can be any object at all which we are familiar with, which has a positive association for us. All we do is remember such an image or visualize such an image at the center of our body instead. It's a way of seeing an image at the center of our body, not seeing with the eyes, but seeing with the mind. For those of you who can see the blue-colored top view of the Buddha image shown on the computer display or television screen, also this is a very useful image which you can use. Establish your mind at the center of the body, in just the same way that we might tether a wild animal to a tree. We tether the mind to the center of the body by using a visualized mental object. The image is like an anchor to keep the mind at the center of the body the whole of the time. If we bring our mind back here each time it wanders, before long we will find out that the mind will start to stay there the whole of the time. As the mind becomes established at the center of the body, it will become able to fall through the center. In fact, all we need to do is to bring our mind to a standstill at the center of the body, to allow the mind to do this. It is not necessary to do anything else. Simply doing this will set the conditions that will lead us to the beginning of the pathway in a way which we never expected. Once our mind becomes properly adjusted, the sphere inside ourselves will start to expand outwards, enlarging outwards, becoming softer, and revealing at its center a pathway which leads further inside. We will find that there is only one pathway, a single pathway which leads towards nirvana, a pathway which the Lord Buddha referred to as Ekalyana Magga. It is the mainstream which has no alternative way. Thus, for anyone whose mind is not at a standstill yet, we should use the following advice. We have to pretend to ourselves that our mind is already at the center of the body, In fact, we are fooling ourselves a little bit by assuming that from the fact that we are happy to place our mind somewhere in the center of our stomach, even though it might not be exactly at the point of the center of the body, the fact that we allow our mind to be free of worry at that point, and do this the whole of the time, by day and by night, before long, the mind will find its own way to the center of the body. Once our mind becomes properly adapted, steadfast at the center, then it will come precisely to the center of the body. We will not see brightness in the beginning, but we will have the feeling that there is spaciousness inside, as if our mind is light in weight and at ease. Sometimes we may feel as if we could almost float. Some people have the lesser feeling, which would be more like mere spaciousness inside, as if the breathing becomes more refined, or as if we are alone in empty space. Sometimes we may feel merely that our body seems to expand inside, and it may do so more in one direction than in another. Sometimes we may feel as if it is expanding upwards, so that we feel that we grow so tall that our head might reach the ceiling. Sometimes it feels as if we were contracting, as if our body were being pulled down towards the ground. Some people feel as if they were falling down through the center of the body. If it is less refined than that, sometimes we may feel as if the body is swaying, as if we were sitting on a boat, or as if we were being rocked in a cradle. If it is less refined than this still, sometimes we may feel as if our hair is standing on end, or we may feel that our heart is beating more vigorously than usual. Sometimes we may feel as if we have lost feeling in part of our body, sometimes just in our legs or in our hands, as if they have become numb, or as if we cannot feel them anymore. When some people come across such feelings, they make a mistake of giving up their meditation, thinking they have not succeeded. But in fact, these are all symptoms that our meditation is nearly at the point of progress. We ought to continue, and we should use our mindfulness to keep ourselves on track, instead of giving up when we come across these sort of experiences. So don't get excited, don't be elated by such experiences, and don't be afraid of anything, not even of death, but maintain your mindfulness and your wisdom, because once your mind reaches the point of equilibrium, you come to the point where there are no thoughts anymore. Even though you try to think, you cannot think of anything anymore. It's not like when you start out in your meditation where, even though you try not to think, you are always thinking about something. It will be almost as if you are not breathing anymore. But even though you're not breathing anymore, you feel that you have more happiness than if you were breathing. Your mind will be steadfast at the center of the body, and your body will seem to be upright of its own accord, so that you have no interest in the outside world anymore. Once your mind has become fully adapted, then the mind will swoop through the center of the body, and there will be a sphere coming up in the opposite direction, which is bright and clear. The smallest size is like a star in the night sky, or like the tip of a needle, very bright but tiny. For some people, for whom it may be of medium size, the sphere won't be the size of the full moon or of the shining sun. These spheres are what we call the sphere of Patamamagga. It arises at the center of the body. It never arises anywhere else. If it does arise anywhere else, then you know it's not the true experience, but rather a distortion of one's proper meditation experience, something which, technically speaking, we call vipassanupakilesa. But once the mind is properly adapted, we will see things bright and clear, but precisely at the center. It's this Patamamagga sphere which the great abbot of Wat Phra Gnam referred to as the Dhammanupassana Satipatthana sphere. Loosely translated, it means the sphere of the initial path, because it's the trailhead to the path which will lead us to the noble pathway of all the Buddhist saints. Having seen this sort of thing, then this sort of purity is something which we should try to maintain the whole of the time, whether we are standing, walking, sitting or lying down, eating, or whatever task we may be doing. We should maintain it the whole of the time, reflecting at the center of our body in order to maintain this state of mind. Whether our eyes are open or closed, we should see it the whole of the time, because this is the start of the pathway towards nirvana. If we can maintain ourselves on this path, then we will be on the right pathway to nirvana for every lifetime. We will never lead a life in an unskillful way anymore, and our life will be a life which is supreme. We will not be living our life by trial and error as we have done in the past. Sometimes when we think back over our life, we regret all the mistakes we have made in our life. But once we come to this point in our meditation, we have stillness of mind as our refuge. We will only make our way towards nirvana from this lifetime onwards, and our attainment of human birth in this life will have been worthwhile. It will have been a lifetime of profit for us, and it will be a sign that we will profit in every life, from this time onwards until we enter upon nirvana. It is something which will close the doors to unfortunate rebirth from this time onwards, so that we will not be able to fall into the unfortunate realms anymore. There will be no more straying from the path, and we will be reborn only in the fortunate realms, whether it be the 6 levels of heaven, the 16 levels of form Brahma realms, or the 4 levels of the formless Brahma realms, or nirvana itself. Therefore, we should give full importance to these experiences, and must train our mind consistently and regularly. If we have not yet attained the Paramamagga sphere, we cannot trust that we will achieve success in life. If we are unable to attain it, then it is as if we have made a loss on our life. We have only things which will bring us regret later in life, and looking back over our life, we will have resentment in retrospect. As for the way in which we should attain the Paramamagga sphere, everyone should let go of all worries in the world outside and on the inside, everything about the other beings, the environment, and even about ourselves. We should let go of all these things and bring our mind to the center of the body. We must be interested only in our mind, as if we were threading a needle through the center of our mind. Don't use too much effort, don't use too much force when thinking about the center of the body. Think of it as if you were dwelling on something, but do as if you were dwelling on it at the center of your body. And imagine a bright, clear crystal ball, rather like a diamond sphere there. A diamond sphere which has been polished without any blemishes or scratches, about the same size as the tip of our little finger. In fact, any size will do. And imagine this bright and clear like a diamond. It can be the size of the tip of our little finger, the size of the tip of our index finger, or the size of our eyeball. Simply imagine it gently. The only condition is that you should imagine it gently. If you think of it just in a relaxed way, then it will be clear. But if we use too much effort, it will give us a headache. If you find that you are getting a headache from imagining it, then relax and try again. Make sure that the sphere is bright and clear, spherical. If you can imagine how bright and clear a diamond is, then that is about the brightness we ought to be imagining for our crystal ball. Maintain our mind at a standstill at the center of our body, at the 7th base of our mind, because we already know all about this position in our body. Keeping our mind at the center of the body the whole of the time, 2 finger breadths above, the 2 threads in the center of our body. Maintain it, remembering the image by imagining it with the mind, not by using our eyes to stare down at the center of our body. If we get the principle now, then we can practice it by ourselves without any problem in the future. But if we don't get it right this time round, then we may be off track every time we practice it in the future. So just relax and work at it slowly. Make sure you get the method right, remembering the bright, clear image at the center of the body, bright and clear, transparent and vivid in our mind, rather as if we were seeing it with our own eyes. But now we are seeing it at the center of our body, maintaining it the whole of the time. So now, may all of you be fulfilled in your wish to attain the triple gem inside yourself. Now each to their own meditation for a few more moments in silence until we come to the appropriate time.
Sappa Dhammānupāvena Sappa Saṅkhānupāvena Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position and gradually finish your practice. Did you know that a smile uses a smaller number of muscles in your face than a frown? So why not smile instead and let your face relax for a change? Notice whether, when you smile, your feelings change or not. This is also a question that has puzzled scientists. Which comes first, the smile or the happiness? Some say that you have to be happy first before you can smile. But scientific evidence shows that even faking a smile sparks off a chemical reaction in the brain, releases certain hormones including dopamine and serotonin, which increase your feeling of happiness. So even if you are not happy and you smile, it will lead you to feel happier. Thus you can see that there is a good reason to suppose that happiness is something that we have the freedom to choose, which is not merely dependent on the factors and circumstances in the outside world. This is by way of introduction to the subject of real happiness. You may ask yourself the reason why people seem to find so much difficulty in attaining happiness in life. Are we searching in the wrong place, perhaps? Another way of putting the question is why, if human nature is supposed to be happy, don't we automatically feel happy the whole time? The answer to this question is that, although deep inside we may be happy, on the surface our mind is clouded by impurities, which in everyday life we call defilements, but in the context of meditation we call hindrances. If we don't know about these obstacles, or if we can't keep up with the way they hijack the mind, then they will not only ruin our meditation, but possibly impede access to happiness in our lives as well. If the mind is free of such obstacles, it is transparent, clear and bright, like the water in this glass. It is so clear that when you look through it, you get an accurate picture of the reality of the world around you. The hindrances we experience in meditation are like impurities that remain in our mind. Just as our body is weakened by bacteria or viruses that don't belong there, in the same way the mind is weakened by impurities, or as we see them expressed, bad habits. These illnesses of the mind can be broken down into three categories: greed, hatred, and delusion, each of which have different characteristics in the way they affect the mind. And from these three categories, as they relate to our meditation, we can expand the detail into 5 different problems that tend to occur in meditation, otherwise known as the 5 hindrances. Let's see how the 3 sorts of defilements and the 5 hindrances are related, and then we'll look at how each of these hindrances can be overcome, because if all 5 release their hold on your mind, you will automatically touch upon that inner clarity and happiness we all aspire to achieve in our meditation. The first category of defilement is greed, wanting to get something, or maybe wanting to cheat people or steal from them in order to get that opportunity. Greed or desire for things, especially those things obtained dishonestly, will affect our meditation adversely. Our mind will fall under the sway not of a streetcar named desire, but a hindrance named sense desire. It will color our perception of things, making it hard to see the world as it really is. Just like a drop of ink that taints the clarity of a glass of clear water, you can appreciate that greed can have a serious effect on the mind as well. Like colored ink, it is not so serious that we cannot see the world around us anymore, although reality may appear to be a different color from reality. However, it will take a long time before this ink separates from the water. In the same way for sense desire, as you may know from experience, the effects of this defilement may not be so serious. You may steal or become obsessed as the worst possible consequences of this defilement, but as with things like heartbreak, it takes a long time to break free from the effects of the defilements. We can suffer from too much or too little of this defilement as it relates to our meditation. In meditation, if we have too much desire for results in our meditation, we will make too much effort, try to rush and control our meditation results, causing tension in our forehead or across our shoulders. How can we solve the problem? We must readjust our balance of attention to be gentler in our application of the mind, and we must not allow ourselves to have expectations when we are meditating. Simply observe our experience instead. On the other hand, there are those who make too little effort in their meditation. They just let their mind wander, a problem which may be solved by placing one's mind more firmly on the object of meditation. Another facet of investing too little energy in your meditation is that you may even fall asleep while meditating, even though you may have had enough sleep. In such a case, the problem comes from a lack of earnest in meditation. How can you overcome such a hindrance? According to the traditional advice in the scriptures, if you feel sleepy when meditation, you should not indulge the drowsiness that befalls you. You should reflect on the meditation technique you have learned, ponder over it, and examine it closely with your mind. You should make sure you haven't forgotten to repeat the mantra Sama Arahang to yourself, and perhaps speed up or slow down the repetition to dispel the sleepiness. You can try pulling both earlobes and rubbing your limbs with your hand. You can try washing your face with water and perhaps drinking more water. You should try to arouse as much light as possible in your meditation or sit for meditation in a bright place. You might try walking meditation in between your usual sessions of sitting meditation. If all the above fail, please don't give up, but you might need to accept that you are too short of sleep to meditate effectively, in which case you should lie down, take a quick power nap, and then when you're feeling refreshed, come back to your meditation again. The second sort of illness or hindrance in the mind is hatred, wanting to destroy others when they do something to upset you. The thought of harming other people, which if left uncontrolled, will become vengefulness. Even while we're meditating, we may come across a less extreme form of this emotion called ill will, when we experience unwanted emotions such as the pain in our knees. Ill will can poison our perception of things, making it hard to see things as they really are. If you imagine the water bubbling up in this glass here is not bubbling because of the effervescent tablet, but because it's boiling hot, this would be a good metaphor for the effect of hatred or anger on the mind. If such a hindrance arises, what can be done to solve the problem? Anger can have a serious effect on our mind. We can be beside ourselves with anger and do things when we get mad that could easily get us put behind bars. We might harm or insult others when we are mad, which is no surprise because we can't even think clearly. However, it doesn't usually take very long for the anger to go. It often goes away as quickly as it has come, leaving you wondering how it even got so mad in the first place. Similarly, the effects of this type of defilement are serious but short-lived. The way to overcome this particular sort of hindrance, known as ill will, is to let go instead of resisting the experience, or study the experience as if it is already at the center of the body, simply by observing it from the point at the center of the body. This is sometimes easier said than done. What you can do to make things easier, if you know that you are the sort of person who's short-tempered, is to learn how to meditate upon loving kindness. The third category of obstacle in the mind is ignorance or delusion, seeing right things as wrong or wrong things as right, like generosity, which everyone knows is good and encourages people to help one another, but some people, overcome by delusion, claim that generosity should be avoided because it encourages people to be lazy. When we don't know or we hesitate in our meditation, these can both be called ignorance, because they will cause our mind to be clouded instead of clear. Just as mud in water can obscure its clarity, ignorance or delusion can seriously obscure our clarity of mind. The problem with ignorance is that we don't know that we don't know. Because of ignorance, we can slip into all the bad behaviors that we might do when mad or obsessed, because we can hardly discern the reality of the world while we are deluded. Furthermore, it takes a long time for the delusion to go away. Thus, the defilement of delusion in the mind is considered both serious and long-lived. This is why we have to wait for the sediment of delusion, like the mud in the glass, to settle out of our mind by calming the mind in meditation. Just like the mud in the glass, if left unstirred for long enough, it will eventually settle at the bottom, leaving a degree of clarity at the top. Only in this way can we get at least a usable part of the mind by which we can see the world according to its reality. In the beginning, we calm the mind with meditation so that we can start to recognize the presence of defilements in the mind. Later, as the mind becomes more powerful, we can use the meditation to start to remove the defilements from the sediment in the mind as well. One way delusion expresses itself in the mind is by having an excess of thoughts. Thoughts can be reduced by applying the mind more strongly at the center, or thinking through unresolved issues to closure. You can try just ignoring the thoughts, or making more use of the mantra Sammarahang. If all these fail, you can reset the mind by opening your eyes and closing them again. Delusion also expresses itself in the meditation by doubts, which arise in the mind. We think, why does it have to be like this? Or, what's happening? In my meditation, it's not the same as yesterday. It's not the first question that will clutter up your mind, but the third or the fourth. As soon as you realize that there is a question in your mind, you have to draw a figurative line under it before it proliferates. You should try to be confident that you are on the right track and don't let your questions undermine the continuity of your meditation. Doubt arising in your meditation is the same. You should try your best to make sure there's no remaining doubt in your mind, and the way you can reduce it is to study the meditation technique in theory until you're confident, or take your questions to ask a teacher or a friend who is more experienced on the path than you. Also, some way derived from ignorance, but on a more subtle level, is a category of strange phenomena which occur differently for different people, just at the point where the meditation is about to improve dramatically. Some people feel hot, some people feel hungry, some people feel as if they are floating and actually reach out to grab the meditation mat to stop themselves from floating away because the feeling is so realistic. Some people feel their body has disappeared altogether. Although they have different forms, these strange phenomena all have the same effect. They will distract you from your meditation unless you ignore them. They are like unwelcome guests that come to your house. If you take no notice of them, they will go away by themselves. All you need to do, if such special hindrances arise, is to carry on with your meditation while pretending you're not interested. Before long, the distraction will go away and your mind will settle down to a complete standstill. So in conclusion, there are 5 sorts of hindrances that seek to upset our success in meditation. Our meditation is a constant fight against these hindrances. However, once we can manage to overcome them, our mind will immediately become unified or one-pointed. These hindrances go some way to explain why the happiness we have latent in the mind can be so easily obscured by the ups and downs we experience in our life. So let's turn now to look at some of the questions sent in by viewers. My first question comes from Mr. Top of Thailand. He has been wondering about the sorts of thoughts that go around and around in your head when you're on lockdown. His question is, what attitudes are good to help me shed obsessive thoughts from my mind? Hi, Mr. Top. Thanks for your question. In answer to this, I would like to share the teachings of our Venerable Dhammajiyo in Thailand, who advise that there are 4 trainings that will help you to shed unwanted thoughts from your mind and help you to settle your mind down more easily to meditate. Firstly, try to train your mind to see the world as it really is. Don't be overly optimistic or pessimistic, but see the world according to reality, in accordance with the so-called 8 lokadhamma: gain and loss, promotion, demotion, praise, gossip, happiness and suffering. These 8 vicissitudes constantly reappear in our lives, so we need to make sure they do not shake us from our resolve when they touch us. But in spite of these vicissitudes, keep our minds centered and still, applying this approach in our daily lives. Secondly, you should try to keep the mind joyous, wholesome and at ease and refreshed the whole time. If you find you are getting irritable, moody, quick-tempered, impatient or sulky, be quick to discard these states of mind rather than clinging to them, and the mind will gain instant radiance and soothing coolness. Next, try to appreciate the whole human race as fellow experiences of suffering. Birth, aging, sickness and death, whoever they are, we all share the same existential conditions with everyone else in the world. The thing we will gain is that our mind will be put at ease. We will be free of irritation or short-temperedness. Apart from being at ease, whether sitting, lying down, standing or walking, we will have the feeling that we are surrounded by friends. The feeling will arise by itself. The more compassion we feel, the more the feeling of ease will return to us, and when we recollect the center of the body, it will be easy for us because the mind is already free of petty details. If we don't sweat the small stuff, we will be able to focus on the big issues, such as making a breakthrough in our meditation. If anything else clouds the mind, we should allow it to die down. And lastly, try to acknowledge that the world is empty and transitory, without ultimate meaning. It will allow you to undertake the tasks to live to the full without getting caught up. If you have equanimity, it will be really easy to attain. Once the mind is at ease, even before you have crossed your legs or gotten into the half-lotus position, the mind will already be drawn inward, because you have already been training your mind from the moment of waking until the last thing at night. Use your surroundings and your everyday life as tools to help you train the mind, and it will maintain a sense of joyousness, and the stopping of the mind will happen by itself. Even though we search for the stopping and equanimity of the mind, we fail to find it, because our daily lives we don't train our state of mind. But if we were to train ourselves properly to spark joy in our lives, the stopping and equanimity of the mind will arise together, with ease of mind in our everyday life. My second question comes from Cleopatra of Arcadia, California. Hi, Cleopatra. I hope you're doing well. The question you asked was, what does Buddhism say regarding the topic of jealousy? And how does meditation assist individuals or couples who have jealous streaks, especially the sort of people who get mildly envious, even in apparently non-threatening situations? Okay, I assume for the purposes of answering this question that you are not the jealous one, but you are on the receiving end of a jealous reaction. Generally speaking, Buddhists do not encourage jealousy, but rather they encourage big-heartedness. The main virtue to be cultivated is sympathetic joy, otherwise called mudita, which rejoices in the good deeds others have done or good things they receive, instead of being jealous, the latter of which is seen as a toxic emotion. My answer doesn't really use meditation as an antidote to jealous emotions, but emphasizes other Buddhist teachings. In the temple, saying sadhu a lot when they see others doing good deeds seems to be the main way congregation members encourage big-heartedness. In a couple, remaining faithful is also seen as a virtue, and when a couple is in love with one another, although ideally love should not be clingy or possessive, sometimes it can be like that, even to the point of mental illness. There's a quote I came across recently by the Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh that said, "You must love in such a way that the person you love feels free." Where loving freely is about letting others be themselves, to be as they are without any expectations to change them. I guess whatever the nature of love, whether it is an open or possessive sort of love, if it sustains a couple, then other people should probably have to respect their wishes. To overcome suspicion in a relationship that is jealously possessive, it is important to be open and accountable, minimizing secrecy. To this end, I've heard some couples have a shared or family email account, just like they have a shared bank account, so that both partners can see what communications are coming in and going out. Maybe communicating via such an email address instead of texting to an individual phone would save the possibility of suspicion. It would be a pity to limit communications outside your couple or become a nation of two while we're all stuck in self-isolation. However, if partners in a couple have opposite-sex friends outside their marriage, ideally they should try to treat them in an appropriate way. If of a similar age, treating them like a brother or sister. If they are older, treating them like an uncle or aunt. If younger, treating them like a son or daughter. It does take a lot of assuredness on the part of a couple to be open with others in this way, though. Please bear in mind that it may be more commonplace for Westerners and the younger generation to be in non-romantic friendships with the opposite sex than for older people or people from Asian or more traditional cultures. I hope this has answered your question. Let me finish up with a couple of news items, one about merit making at the temple and a second about the availability of meditation teaching in English. At the moment, as you probably know, despite having passed the peak death rate for COVID-19 in both the US and California, activities in the temple are still limited to those we can share online, as the temple remains closed to the public, with no monks going out into the community and no community members coming into the temple, until the risk of COVID-19 contagion has passed. Although all of us hope that the present situation will not go on too long, the silver lining for the crisis is that there are additional or perhaps different ways in which temple devotees can show their support for the temple without attending in person. We are now entering upon the second month where our temple has been reliant for its income on the weekly merit fund, whereby devotees can pledge and transfer donations of money, any amount you can spare, to be used for necessary things like food and medicine to keep the temple community going, with further details to be found in the temple's DIMC family line group, or you can ask about it by phoning up members of the temple staff. Basically, the convenient ways are mailing checks to the temple address or by bank transfer. There's also such things known as Venmo or Zelle, whatever they are, but the details are there on the slide. The special merits arising for those contributing to the COVID-19 Silver Lining Fund are that you will have a life free of obstacles and danger, You will gain mastery of all special forms of knowledge, prosper in your duties, have special insight into Dharma teachings, attain purity with ease, breaking free of the defilements in the mind. You will gain wealth on worldly, spiritual, and transcendental levels, allowing you to pursue perfections with ease, all the way to the attainment of the utmost Dharma. The whole temple would like to rejoice in your merits on this occasion. Paying attention to what's happening in the moment is difficult in the age of COVID-19, but meditation can also help us cope during these unsettling times. In this respect, here at the temple, although there are no face-to-face teaching sessions for the interim, you can log in to the Dhamma teachings in English at the YouTube channel called Peace Point Meditation or the Facebook page of Peace Point Meditation, either live on Thursday evenings and Sunday mornings or on demand after the event. Peace breaks are broadcast every evening between 7 and 7:30 between Friday and Wednesday. Also recently, Tipsarine Indiganok, or B, and her team at the Meditation Circle in Georgia has developed a mobile phone app of English language meditation and Dhamma teachings from various monks in the organization, which can be downloaded free of charge from the Google Play Store for the Android version and the App Store for the iOS version, and has just had an update for those of you who already got it, which has added a whole lot of new teachings to that as well. The name of the app is MindGem, spelled M-I-N-D-G-E-M. Depending on who is your favorite monk to meditate to, there are contributions from myself, Lumpy Sander, Lumpy John, Lumpy Pasora, and Lumpy Clint. There are about 10 versions of meditation instruction in English. There are also Dharma teachings, inspiration from translated books of Venerable Dhammachayo, and a meditation countdown timer. So this session we have looked at aim in life and 5 hindrances to meditation. For my next session online with you, which will, fingers crossed, be a week on Sunday, we'll be looking a little more at using meditation to solve problems and meditation's role in the New Age. For good measure, I would like to remind viewers again, even better than posting thank you or great talk or sadhu, which are encouraging, you can move to the next level and try posting a few questions, and I will do my best to answer these the next Sunday session. In the meantime, try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Continue recording your meditation experiences by keeping a diary while trying to root out any hindrances in your meditation using the new knowledge you have heard from me today. Hopefully, when you get that clarity in your meditation, you will also have a clearer idea about your own lifelines as well, moving forward. So for today's program, this is me, Brian Nicholas Thanissaro, signing off for this session. So long, folks, and stay safe.
Thank you everyone for bearing with us and for attending today's lesson on the 5 hindrances and the aim of life. We apologize again for our technical difficulties, but we are very happy that resetting was able to provide the great audio quality to share this lesson with you today. As Venerable Nicholas has said, if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section on our YouTube video or the Facebook message, the Facebook live stream, on Peace Point Meditation's page. We'd love to answer any questions and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Venerable Nicholas will return in not next week, but the week after, as he is on approximately every 2nd to the 4th Sunday for our intro to meditation sessions. Next week, we will have Venerable Sopan Panyasopanho. So thank you again for bearing with us, and thank you for attending our peace sessions, or peace break sessions, as well as our intro to meditation sessions. I hope you have a great Mother's Day. Take care, everyone. Bye.